everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. So good, that lap song. It's smokiness. Love it. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, or maybe something harder. As I always say, depends on what part of the planet you are, or maybe what time it is, right? So today we're going to be hanging out talking about audio and 4 steps to making your vocals sound awesome. How to make them sound better. Now, this video was inspired by a great guy, a patron, someone that's been around the channel for many years, Bill Ames. And I thank you, Bill, for putting this seed into my head. I wanted to do this because he was talking about the audio on the channel, and he thinks that it should be tweaked a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to tweak the audio a little bit for you guys, show you how to do it, and how to do it for free. That's the main thing. All right. A lot of people do not have a lot of money to be able to spend on different audio packages and whatnot. To be able to do something for free is great. We're going to use Audacity for it. It's a free piece of software, and I think I might do a similar type of video in the future, maybe not too distant future, with other free pieces of software. Some are better than others, but today we're going to use Audacity. So the idea of vocal mastering is an art. It is not a science. It is non-linear, meaning that we're addressing both the good and the bad frequencies in our vocal tracks. So understanding the principles discussed in this video will give you, let's say, the knowledge and understanding, so that I'm not going to provide you just with how to do it, but I'm also going to provide you the why behind it. So if you use this piece of software or another piece of software that we cover, or a piece of software that I don't cover, you will understand the background, why I'm doing what I'm doing, why it's sounding better, and then you can do the exact same thing in your package of choice. So understanding the how and the why in this video is most important to me. Now, also, instead of using my Electro Voice RE20 that's hanging here, which most of you do not have $800 for the mic as well as the compressor to use, I'm going to instead do this entire tutorial using the Rode video mic. It's about $150 or something. That's a little bit more attainable for the majority of the people out there. So we're going to use that mic solely for doing this sweetening, right, of the audio. So let me start by saying that Audacity, the package that we're going to be using, the editor, is a destructive, not a non-destructive audio editor. What that means is that when we make changes, they are permanent. So when we hit apply, those changes happen to the track, and that is it. It is done. All right, that is destructive. When you use other audio packages like Audition or whatever, the edits will be applied in layers, just like Photoshop, that can be undone at any time and edited at any time. That does not happen with Audacity. Still, it is free and it is absolutely amazing. So to start out with, we need to go and download the software. So let me go and flip over to my desktop. And as you can see here, we're at audacitieteam.org website. You can write that down, audacitieteam.org. Now, from here, we're going to click on downloads, and we can see that we have Windows, Mac, and Linux. Yes, guys, if you're using Linux, this will work for you also. I'm going to go to Windows. And then down here we can see Audacity 3.0.3 64-bit installer. That's what we're going to go ahead and use. So we can click on that. It will download it really quick. I've already downloaded it and installed it. Now remember, this is version 3.0.3. It honestly does not make any much of a difference because going forward, Audacity doesn't change very much. There's a couple little niceties that get added in and whatnot, but it really doesn't change a lot. It's been the same for many years. It gets a little bit better, but the interface stays the same for the most part. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 4 steps to making your audio better. Number 1, we're going to do noise reduction. Number 2, EQ. Number 3, compression. And then finally, we're going to normalize the entire track. And I'll tell you what that's all about as we go forward. Now, to begin with, we need to have some audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record myself speaking basically a small passage of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, one of my favorite poems out there. Sadly, he died at 40, anecdotally. It's horrible, horrible. What a great poet. Anyways, so I'm going to read this, and we're going to use this for our sweetening process, that 4-part process of making a better vocal track. All right, so let me go ahead and read this real quick, and then we're going to jump into Audacity and make the changes. So here we go. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping on my chamber door. So guys, that is The Raven, or a portion of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit stop on my audio here, and I'm going to pull the card out of this. Now what I did is I ran the audio from my Rode mic into a Zoom, an H4n. The reason I did that, here's the card. The reason I did that is because that's going to give us our cleanest possible sound. Whenever you want to record sound, you always do it externally. You don't want to do it into the computer. It's just not the same. All right? You always want to record into an audio external device of some kind. I use the Zoom, the H4n, whatever works for you, that's what you should use. But try not to record directly into your computer. So anyways, we're going to load this in. And let me go ahead and change over once again to my desktop, and here we can see Audacity. So I'm going to drag my audio file into Audacity, and there we go. So let's go ahead and hit play. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy this entire track. The reason I'm doing this is so we have a baseline and we know what it sounded like from the beginning, and now we'll know what it sounds like when we're done sweetening this audio. So I'm going to hit mute on this one, and we are now going to work on this new one that we just made this copy. So the first thing that we're going to do is remove background noise using noise reduction. But pro tip here, get your noise or your background noise in check before recording. And the reason being is when we remove the frequencies of the background noise, those frequencies will also be part of your voice, and some of your voice will degrade. You don't want that to happen. So you want as little background noise as possible. So if you take some out, you're only taking out a bare minimum, and you do not negatively affect your voice. So when we look at this dead area at the very end, right around here, I'm going to shrink this area at the top. That's muted anyways. I'm going to make this area bigger so you can see what this looks like. Now at the end, we have some dead air. No matter what you're doing, you always want to have dead air in your audio sample so that you can use that as a baseline for background noise. Now, I can look at this and see that there's not a lot going on here. So if we play this area right here, we can see about 47, 46 dBs. That's not anything. It's very, very little. But let's make believe it's a lot more. So we'll still do noise reduction on this just to show you how to do it. So what we need to do is have Audacity learn this area so that it understands what is noise and what isn't. So this is considered noise. So we're going to highlight this ending area, and we're going to come over to Effects, and we're going to come down to Noise Reduction, and then click on Get Noise. What that did was it had Audacity look at that specific area and say, this is the frequencies that we consider to be noise, and it's going to reduce it. Now what we want to do is highlight the entire track so that we're going to now apply that noise reduction. So once again, we go to Effects, Noise Reduction, and this time we're going to hit OK and Apply. Now as far as these settings go, noise reduction is set for 12 dB, sensitivity at 6, and frequency smoothing at 3. Now, you can play with this to get it to exactly the way you like it. Normally, I bring this down to about, let's say about 8 dB. That's where it works well for me and my voice and the setup and the noise or background noise in the area. So when I hit OK on this, let's take a look at what happened. We see that instead of 47, 46 dB here at the top, let me hit play again, we're seeing less than 54 dB. So we dropped about 5-6 dB of noise. That is basically inaudible. All right, so perfect. If you had, let's say, 30 dB of noise, when you ran this noise reduction on it, you're going to see that drop all the way back into the 40s or lower. All right, so that's our noise reduction process. The next thing that we want to do is run EQ on this. And EQ is very, very important, guys. And the reason being is EQ is what gives you all of the positives and reduces the negatives of your audio or your vocal track. All right, this is what dials everything in. Now, when we run it through the EQ, what we're going to be addressing is, number one, we're going to remove the low end, let's say, rumbling, right? You get from the mic, sometimes room noise or whatnot, that low end, what makes the audio muddy. We're going to remove that. Also, we're going to make the vocal more understandable in another area. Then number three, we're going to make the vocal a little bit crisper, right? Just to sharpen things up a little bit. Then what we're going to do is manually de-ess using EQ. And then finally, we're going to add a little bit of air on the top end, just to kind of open things up a little bit. So it's a 5-step process for using your EQ. That's the way I use it. Once again, I am not a audio engineer by trade. You could find other YouTube videos out there from audio engineers that might tell you things a little bit differently. This is what works for me. This has been working for a decade, and I'm teaching it to you. So to start out with, what we're going to do is we're going to address that low-end rumble, let's call it. That low-end rumble, once again, is that portion that's like around 100 hertz and lower. That portion is not in anyone's voice. Some of the lowest people out there, the deepest voices, are maybe around 80. Chances are you and I are not that. So from 100 hertz all the way down from there, there's nothing of value in there. So what we want to do is we want to remove that. Once again, jumping into Audacity, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this entire track, and we're going to go to Effects. Then we have two options. We can use graphic EQ, or we can use filter curve EQ. What I'm going to use is filter curve EQ so we can be really exacting, and I can show you once again the whys and whats of doing this. Now I'm going to go to Manage, and I'm going to go to Factory Presets Default. So it zeroes all this out, and I'm going to make this larger so we can see what we're doing here. All right, so this is our EQ. It's a blank slate. Now we're going to go and start working on it. Like I said before, right down here around 100 hertz we need to get rid of. So let's put a point right around 100 hertz, maybe just before, and we'll put maybe 3 more points. And we're going to drag that back end point all the way down. Now, this only allows me to drag it to 30 dB. To see further, let's say 40, 50 dB, that's all we have to do is take this slider and slide that down a little bit, and now we can see all the way down to 48 dB. So let's drag this all the way down to 48 dB. That is inaudible, all right? And then we'll take this second point and drag it to maybe about here, and maybe we'll even put a third point in. I do not like linear things. I like things that are a little bit more gradual. They sound better. So that's the beginning. That's where we're at. We can go and hit preview. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or... So that is the basis. That is that bottom line mumbling kind of nastiness that we got rid of. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to make our vocals more understandable. There's an area around 500 hertz that doesn't sound great on anyone. It goes from about 300 hertz up to about 700, 750 hertz. 500 is in the middle. All right, we want to reduce that a little bit. We want to get rid of some of that. We basically enhance the understandability of our audio. A little bit of that, let's say, hum or mumble or some of that resonance in there that we don't want, we remove. Now, if you're trying to remove a little bit of that hum or that deepness out of someone that has a deep voice, you would remove more down around 300 hertz. Now, if you want to remove a little bit of that deepness from a male's voice, that little rumble that comes down really low, you would probably take out right around 300 hertz. If it's a female voice and you want to remove a little bit, you can go up to about 700 hertz. I'm going to go right dead center because it's a good portion for my voice. I have a kind of mid-range voice, a little bit deeper, so maybe I'll do about 450. So let's get in there And what we're going to do is we're going to put a point right at 450. And we're going to put another point right around 700. And then we'll put another point at 300. All right. And I'm going to drag this down about, let's call it 3 dB. Normally I do 2 to 3 dB to start out with, and then I'll kind of move things around to get it to sound better. Once again, like I said, this is nonlinear. This is not scientific. You know, this is an art, and you have to listen. So what I'm going to do is right around 450, I drag that down, and I'll put 2 more points on each side. Once again, I don't like things very linear, and I'm going to drag these up a little bit. We're basically affecting 450 hertz. Now, if you want to add a little bit of deepness to the voice, just a little bit, what I would recommend here is just moving this point that we put earlier up about 3 dB. That gives that little bit of richness. Now, with the RE20, I don't have to put any in because that mic is just rich. It's a radio mic. As far as the Rode, I've heard it in the past. It's a little bit less deep, a little more tinny. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of bass into it. Not too much, because if you do, it ends up muddy. Matter of fact, I'm going to take it down to 2 dB. I think that's going to be better. So that's where we start out with. We added that little touch of bass, and once again, we cleaned up or cleared out right around 500 hertz to make the voice a little bit more understandable. Let me hit preview once again.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or...
Not bad. Sounding pretty good. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our vocal more crisp. Voices usually sit right around 1,000 to 4,500 hertz, where the majority of the voice is. Now that's what we're going to increase, and we're going to get it to, let's say, a good sweet spot for you. For me, it's going to be a little bit different. So what we're going to do is, once again, we're going to come into Audacity, and we're going to put a point at 1,000 hertz, and we're going to put a point at about, let's say, 4,500. Now we know in between this area is where we need to expand that vocal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take right around 2,000, maybe 2,200, and I'm going to bring that up, let's call it 6 dB. Now this entire area is going to get a slight increase from 1,000 all the way to 4,500. If you find that your voice doesn't do well in this area, take that point and now move it, slide it to maybe 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500. Slide that back and forth until your voice sounds the best that it can with the mic that you're using. Because every mic is going to be different, all right? So right around there usually works pretty good for me. We'll see what it sounds like. Let's go ahead and preview.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or...
Not bad. That's sounding a little bit more crisp. The voice itself is a little bit louder also. It's just getting a lot better than it was to begin with. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to move into the de-essing. Now, de-essing or sibilance removal is basically the sound that we make when we say sip or zip or ship or something like that. Those sounds really come across heavily, especially in the English language. There's a lot of S's and Z's and just harsher sounds. Those sounds we can address with a piece of software that you can purchase, a de-essing, let's say, application or a de-essing module or whatnot. But we don't want to spend money. What we want to do is we want to do it very easily through our EQ. So that sound, that sibilant sound, usually sits around 5,000 hertz to about 5,700 hertz, 5,750, right around there. So what we're going to do is we're going to once again jump into Audacity, and right around 5,000 we're going to put a little point there. And we're also going to put a point right around 5,750. And now we're going to put one dead center. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to drag that down, and we're going to listen for sibilants, okay? We're going to drag it down. I like to do about 6 dB, maybe even more, because this area is really strong when it comes to, once again, sip, ship, zip, all this type of thing, right? We want to bring that down so you still hear the S, but it's not as strong, okay, that sibilance ends up being reduced. So we're going to pull that down. Let's say, what are we at, about 10 dB? That sounds good. Let's hit preview.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or...
Not bad. That did reduce some. We can tweak it. Once again, we're doing a baseline for now. Later on, like I said before, you can move things, meander it around. All right? So now what we're going to do is we move from de-essing to that air. We're going to add an airy sound to it. But before we add the air, what we want to do is knock back anything that's above 20,000, 25,000 hertz. Why is that? The human voice doesn't go that high. It's not there. Anything above, let's say 25,000 hertz is more like that high frequency sound that you hear from like an appliance or maybe a discharging capacitor, you know, that whine, right? We don't need any of that. That's not in our voice. So right around this area here, I'm going to put a point right around 22,000 and I'm going to put another point and I'm going to drag that all the way down to that negative 48 dB because we don't want anything there. All right. So now we're going to open it up. We're going to add that airiness to it. So anything from about 10,000 hertz up to that 25,000 hertz is that airy section, let's say. So if we put a point here at 10,000 hertz and then we put another point at 20,000 hertz and just simply drag that up, let's say 6 dB, that will kind of open things up a little bit. So let's preview one more time.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or...
Not bad at all. So now what we're going to do is hit OK. But understand, everything that we did now is destructive. So when I hit OK, that is going to make all of the changes to our audio track, and that is it. We could hit Control Z to undo it, but it is destructive. When you put another layer on top and another layer, every time you do that, you can never go back again. Once again, this is a destructive audio editor, not a non-destructive audio editor. But as we see it right now, it looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and hit OK. So as you can see, the waveform has definitely been manipulated. You can see there's louder areas than there were before, and you can see that things have expanded. They've become thicker. And the reason being is we have adjusted all of those areas in our waveform, all those frequencies. So the next thing that we need to do now that we have the EQ done, the EQ is extremely, extremely important. Now we need to do compression. Now what does compression do? So what compression does, it makes your audio a little bit more polished. It controls the maximum volume and maintains the higher average loudness. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in here and run some compression against this audio track. Go to Effects, then Compressor. Now, these are my settings. Your settings are going to be different. For me, I have threshold set to negative 12 dB, noise floor to negative 30 dB, and a ratio of 2.5 to 1. And I have the attack as well as release to be extremely fast, basically as fast as it can be. Now, this 2.5 number, it's up to you how much compression you want. I like my voice to have not as much compression, so 2.0 to 2.5 is a really small amount. If you're trying to create a voice that sounds like a radio voice or someone that you see on TV or whatnot that's doing an introduction or something, you're going to go to 4 to 1, 5 to 1, even 6 to 1 sometimes. It's a lot. But you will hear it and it's too much for me. For this situation that we're going to be using this microphone, this Rode video mic, I'm going to move this up. I'm going to bump it up to 3 to 1. That's not bad. I'm going to leave the noise floor to negative 30 dB and the threshold to negative 12. Now remember, this is destructive. So when we run this, you're going to see that the waveform changed. Now watch it. There you go. Now, when we look at this, we can see there's more leveling or evening to our audio. The peaks are peaking all the way up to this tippy top, but all these lows in this area are also increased. So we have a more middle ground, an average of sound. So the very last thing that we're going to do is normalize our audio track. So if there's any peaks, it's going to back them off just a little bit. Now, let's go over to Effects and then go down to Normalize. And here we have a setting. I go to remove DC, normalize peaks, and then it asks for a dB. Now, for me, I like to push my audio to the very nth degree, as loud as it can possibly be. Why is that? Kind of to use it to push through any type of background. So if I play audio in the background, my voice is going to be the loudest thing on the track, okay? So this is how I work. You might work something different. You might do a negative 0.3 dB or a negative 0.6 dB, whatever. I use negative 0.1, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now watch the track. You see how things got a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. It leveled things off. That's basically what normalizing does. And the very peak of this very tall portion of this area here will not be louder than negative 0.1 dB. So now that we're done with this, let's go back to our baseline, what it sounded like from the very beginning, and then what we'll do is we'll play the new track, all right? So let me mute the new track and turn on the original track and hit play to see what this sounds like.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping on my chamber door.
So that is the original. It's not bad. Clean out of this mic, sounds pretty damn good. All right, now I'm going to mute that and I'm going to turn on what we've done, the new track, and listen to that.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping on my chamber door.
And there you go, guys. Not bad, not bad. You have a little bit more power. There's a little bit more presence, and it is louder but more evenly loud. It leveled things out. It made the lows a little bit stronger. It made the mids better. It sounds pretty good. Once again, this is a baseline. Now, can I sit there and get it even better? Absolutely. Like I told you, you can move these levels from left to right, okay, to dial it in exactly for your voice and for your microphone. We obviously don't have time to do that right now, but I think that you have a greater understanding now of why we did things, not just how. Just to do a tutorial and just teach you how to do it without the explanation of why really doesn't teach you anything. It just shows you how to do it. And after you're done doing it, you'll never remember how to do it again. But hopefully all of the why that I've included in this video will help you in perpetuity, right? Going forward. So if you use another audio editor down the road, you're going to understand how to use it. You're going to understand how to do the EQ, why you're doing the different things that you're doing, and in what areas of the frequency does the good and the bad lie, right? So I hope this has been helpful. And if it has been even slightly helpful, please give this a big thumbs up. Tell your friends, family, colleagues, whoever, your message forum that you're on. Let them know about the channel, let them know about the video, and hopefully we can gain a greater number of people, greater number of subscribers, right? The more subscribers, the better. So in the comment area, if you have any questions, put them down there. There is audio engineers that watch me that will look at this and say, oh my God, he missed something. Whatever I missed, put it down there, all right? Like I said, I'm not an audio engineer. Hopefully what I've learned in the last decade, this little bit, these tidbits that I've given to you have been helpful. So let's have that conversation down there. Also, go over to community.JCristina.com, our creative Discord server. We can have additional conversations over there. It's a great place. There is tech heads and video guys and photo guys. We're all there hanging out, and it's a great community. If you want to contribute to the channel, you can do so by going and using this link in PayPal, JC Tip Jar. Also, if you want to click this button right down here that says join, you'll become a member and you can give $1 or $2 a month, whatever you so desire, and I can give you perks for doing so. Please check that out. Also, now YouTube has given us this new button. This button says thanks, and there's a little $sign. Thank you, YouTube, for doing so. You can click that and just basically give the channel $1 or $2, and I think the majority of it comes to us, the creators. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I hope so, YouTube. Anyways, please subscribe. Click this little button over here, this little notification button. It doesn't work anyways, but click it like 2, 3, 4 times and then click all. So that when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately, supposedly. Fix it. Fix it, YouTube. Fix it. I think they are fixing it. There was a couple of people that got notified recently that normally don't get notified. So maybe they are fixing it. Thank you. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years. And hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. And if you haven't picked up my book yet, How to Create a Digital Fort Knox, Backing Up Your Digital Life, go check that out. It is a good book. Everyone needs to back up their digital life, and I teach you how. I give you a step-by-step, building an Unraid server with parts that you have in your garage. I have a PDF version of that. We have the actual book that I can give to you signed, or you can go to Amazon and get a Kindle, whatever works for you. Check that book out. So guys, I'm out of here. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.